Okay, so I mean, my plan was to do some sort of name round, so that we'll have some more, a bit more familiar. We'll be familiar with each other. So I mean, if you want to introduce yourself very shortly, Elliot, you want to start? Just say half a sentence about yourself, and we'll continue.
Yep. Hi, I'm Elliot. I used to be a Talmud of Yisrael at university, when Yisrael was the chaplain in Cambridge, and I'm now currently a trainee lawyer, reluctantly.
Okay, Ruma. We can't hear you. Okay.
Can you hear me now? I used to be Israel's neighbor, and now I'm his neighbor from far away.
Okay, and Israel. Okay, I mean, my first reaction when I was asked to do this these classes was like, what's the point in like, what does it actually mean to do to learn Rav Steinsaltz about something? Like, I mean, we have the books, we can open the book and read the book. So what is it about? Like, is it? I mean, I had various thoughts about it, but I think, I mean, as a conclusion, I think I'd say that. I mean, the first thing is that there is about some value and hopefully some benefit in discussing things, even in reading like fairly simple texts together and discussing them. There can be some benefit, and also because I spent quite a few years with Rav Steinsaltz over the high holidays, so maybe I have some perspectives or some personal experiences that can add or can help in understanding more widely or more deeply some of the ideas that are written in the books. When I'm saying books, or when I think about when I talk about holidays and high holidays, so Rav Steinsaltz wrote lots of articles over the years about all the Chagim and everything. But about 10, 15 years ago, there was kind of a compilation of lots of articles on the Jewish calendar that were published first in Hebrew and then in English, which is this book. Luckily I happen to have in the house, called Change and Renewal. So I'm gonna start from my personal experience and thoughts, and try to see how we can read through and use it while reading through some pieces from the book. So I wanted to dedicate this week's class and next week's to, I mean, because it's before Rosh Hashanah, so to things that are related to Rosh Hashanah or maybe to Elul, and then the third one will be just between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, so we can discuss Yom Kippur, and maybe this was the idea more or less. And when I think about Rosh Hashanah, one of the first things that I remember that was very prominent is that Rosh Hashanah was fascinated by the concept of time. So Rosh Hashanah is the end of the year, and it's the beginning of a new year, and he was like really caught into thinking about this. It was especially around Rosh Hashanah, but also when he was around other Chagim around the year, he used to talk a lot about time. It was a topic that was important to him and interesting to him. I think that in his understanding, time is an entity of itself. So time is not just a way to measure something. Time is a sort of some sort of entity of itself, and therefore he has to, when time changes and moves along, it's not automatic. And each piece of time, each can be a day or a moment or a year, is a different thing, and it has to be reborn, has to come, it has to be created, and it's not it can't be taken for granted. The time arrives, the time moves on, a new day starts, or a new year starts. And this is something that he wrote a lot about it, etc., and we'll see. But it was very evident on Rosh Hashanah that he was really feeling that, especially during the first day of Rosh Hashanah. Usually he dedicated the first speech in Rosh Hashanah. Over Rosh Hashanah, he used to speak 4 times. I think 4 times. Like he used to give 4 sermons, like speeches in shul, and in the 2 nights and before the 2 sets of tkiyot in the 2 days. And he used to dedicate the speech of the first night. On the first night, I think almost every time I remember, to the concept of time. I mean, when I only started to know him, when I was in high school in Mikol Chaim, I was 14, 15. The main thing I remember is like trying not to fall asleep on the speech on the first night of Rosh Hashanah, because you could never know how long it will take. It could be 45 minutes or more, and he got into it. It was very complex and complicated and deep, and it felt like something that was, I don't know, I couldn't really understand most of it, but you could understand. I could understand that it's something that is fascinating for him. It felt like, in a way, it was maybe like hearing somebody talking in a language you don't understand. You just understand some of the words, but there is a whole language that you can say. So this was my thought, and this is what I thought. I decided to try and think about time through various paragraphs from this book. So I'm going to start in general about Chagim, not about Rosh Hashanah. So I'm going to share now the screen, and we'll read a few passages. Maybe someone will read a few passages when he talks about the calendar in general. Let's see if I can do it. Okay. Okay, I hope you can see it. You can read at least the beginning. I know you can do it very well. We have experience. Elliot, can you read?
Yep, I can read. Sorry, the internet was a bit slow.
Yes, please.
Can you hear me? Fine?
Yeah.
Okay. Most Jewish festivals and holidays are days of remembrance. In other words, fixed times established in remembrance of specific events that occurred in the past. Shabbat is primarily a remembrance of creation. The 3 pilgrimage festivals are fundamentally a remembrance of the departure from Egypt. And later holidays likewise commemorate particular events. But the function of these days as days of remembrance, as subjective evocations of objective events that happened in the past, is only partial. From the language of scripture, it appears that a chag is not simply a remembrance, but actually a recurrence. In fact, the word chag literally denotes a circuit or circle. The chagim are reactivations of events that occurred long ago. In a certain sense, these events transpire again and again. In Judaism's conception of time, the past and the events that occurred in the past did not pass away with time. They continue to exist in the present. Judaism's approach to history is not that of relating to what once was. Rather, Judaism conceives of historical events as dynamic elements that continue to operate in all times. This conception is expressed in various forms in almost all Jewish sources, but it is developed profoundly in several later systems which draw on mystical doctrine. According to these systems, which are rooted in the thought of our ancients, time is not a sequence in which the past may be found way back somewhere. Instead, time should be regarded as a long line of discrete units, each of which constitutes a recreation. The past serves as a basic pattern on the basis of which the present is formed anew in every moment. According to this conception,
sorry. Yeah, just one more paragraph.
According to this conception, which in a certain sense denies historical continuity, there is a cyclic nature to all phenomena. The past serves as a foundation for the present, and past events reoccur at other times. According to this approach, the essence of a Chag, as festival, is the re-experience of the original event, which becomes operative again.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so I mean, I chose this piece because it basically explains what the Jewish calendar means. Like the Jewish calendar is day of remembrance in the sense, not in the sense of memory, right? But in the sense of reoccurrence. And I remember once he talked about Hanukkah, and I hope I remember. I remember a phrase that I think that he coined, and he talked about the geography of time. He said, like, time is like geography. Like in geography, sometimes you have hills and you have valleys, and when there is a festive day, when there is a Chag, it's like a hill. And when there is a sad day, like Tisha B'Av, there is a cliff or there is a valley. And he talked about Hanukkah. He talked about the various months. He said that each month, most of the months in the Jewish calendar have either hills or mountains or both. But some of them, two of them don't have any. And the two were Cheshvan and Kislev. They didn't have any festivals. And he said that on Hanukkah, there was a change in the geography. So the events of Hanukkah caused a hill to raise and changed the geography. And now each time you walk in that month, each year that you come, there is a hill there. It's like it becomes part of the landscape. Sorry, I got disconnected. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me?
Yeah, can hear you.
Okay. So I'm sorry, I have no idea what happened. It will be really nice if the new participants will show us their faces, but only if you want. It's a very friendly classroom. You can show us your faces. And he talked like there were 2 months that didn't have anything. One stayed like that, and one became hilly over the years. And he connected it to a Hasidic idea that was from the I think it's from the Chidushei Harim of Gur, the first Ger Rebbe, who was talking about the phrase that we say in Al Nisim. In Al Nisim we say there is the whole description of the events and the miracle, and then it says Leshana Acheret Kvaum Leyamim Tovim. On the next year they established the days to be festivals, and the question was why did they have to wait for the next year? Why couldn't they establish the festival right away? And the answer of the Chidush Ha'arim was that they had to wait for the next year to see if there is actually a change in time. Because sometimes you have big events. Big events can have great impact on us and great impression, but they're not big enough to change the geography of time. So they wanted to wait for the next year to see if the event of Hanukkah is actually entitled to become a hill in the geography of the Jewish calendar. So I think that this is just an example of like applying this way of thought, you know, not only on Rosh Hashanah but also about another Chagim. Yeah. So. Yeah, so now I want to continue and read another paragraph, which goes more specifically to talk about Rosh Hashanah. On Rosh Hashanah, we have a piece of the prayer that we say right after this Kiyot. It says, Hayom Harat Olam, Hayom Yamid V'Mishpat, Kol Yitzurei Olamim. So, the general, maybe the usual translation of the first sentence, Hayom Harat Olam, is that this is the day of creation. And Rav Steinitz had two things to say about this. He said, well, the first thing is the Olam, the word Olam, should not be translated as world, because Olam in the biblical Hebrew means time. And also Harat is not creation. Literally Harat means like Herayon, pregnancy. So this is the day where, so if I take the two corrections, the translation should be something like, this is the day when time is conceived. Conceived, I think is the word. When time is created, but it becomes the very beginning of it. And this is the day of Rosh Hashanah.
Israel.
Yeah.
גם בעברית אני לא בטוחה. Conceived, like the moment that it was made, or the moment that it was born?
Conceive the mate, no born.
Conceive is to.
Yes, I know what it means.
Yeah, I don't actually don't know. And I don't know how much this is a matter of principle. You know exactly. But this is how I usually understand it. Like Herayon, he used to talk about pregnancy. This is the beginning of pregnancy. Maybe it's a very fast pregnancy, and already on the next day, we can already see the results, or we're going to see the results along the year, right? But this is the very beginning of the time, and I think this was evident to whoever spent Rosh Hashanah with Rav Steinsaltz, that he was in. It was a lot of tension. So it was very heavy. The first day of Rosh Hashanah, it felt very, very real. It wasn't only a theoretical idea. Like there was actually, for him, there was actually a feeling that there is a chance that tomorrow there will be no tomorrow. Like we're now dealing with the question whether there actually will be a new year or not. There could be no new year at all, and if there will be a new year, what kind of year will it be? And the next step is that, I mean, not only it's a crucial question from now, will there be a new day tomorrow or not? It also raises the whole question of what was our role in it? Do we have a role in it, and what are we supposed to do with it except for being stressed out? So, and therefore the recreation of the year every Rosh Hashanah is a time where Kadosh Baruch Hu, God, reconsiders also whether He wants a new year to come or not. And this is the very basic meaning of Yom Hadin, the day of judgment. Judgment not in the sense that we did something bad and now we're being punished and we're being looked after. It's a judgment of the world and of the time where should there be is it worthwhile or not? And this is a serious and realistic question. So now we're going to read some more. I need another volunteer to read, please. From number 2. Do we
really
have
can't compete. We can't compete with this beautiful British accent. So
that's true. Elliot,
Happy to do it again if you want.
Okay, go on then.
Superficially, Rosh Hashanah may be regarded as merely a date on the calendar, an arbitrary reference point in the course of time. Judaism, however, sees a deeper meaning in Rosh Hashanah. Rosh Hashanah is also the day of creation, the beginning of your work, a remembrance of the first day. Moreover, the day of Rosh Hashanah, ever since the world's creation, marks the beginning of a new time, a recreation of the world for an additional period. Within the overall conception that God renews the work of creation each day, Rosh Hashanah is a more general renewal of the creation, a renewed decision about whether the world should continue to exist. The Day of Judgment, then, is like a balance sheet for the world of the past, a balance sheet that must answer this question: did the past year justify its existence? This leads to the more penetrating question: does the past year justify the continuance of existence? Is it worthwhile to continue the experiment for another year? The year's end brings the world's existence to a state of termination, a state of temporary summation. A certain period of creation in the world, with all its problems, its ups and its downs, has lasted until this point. From this point on, does the world deserve to be continued? Rosh Hashanah, then, is the point of connection between the past and the future. The judgment and verdict are the link between what was and the conclusion as to what will be.
Okay, any thoughts about it?
I had a question kind of within this new framework of Yom Hadin being whether the world is worthwhile, whether it's worth even, creating the world again. What are the considerations that either God is making, or what is the work that we're meant to do to demonstrate that it is worth continuing? And then I guess a separate and deeper and kind of a question which probably isn't worth even asking here or now. It's like, well, do we need the world to exist? Obviously, I enjoy it. I like it. I want it to exist. But do we need it? God clearly doesn't. If God is asking, the question, do we need the world to exist? God can exist without it, obviously. We can even exist without it. I'm assuming a neshama doesn't require a physical world. So then, so that's the bigger question. The more immediate question is, on the basis of what decision is God, making this decision to recreate the world, and what is our role? So sorry, that's far too many questions. Lots of questions. It's a stressful day, as you said.
Yeah, I'm not going to answer. I'm going to leave. I'm not sure I have an answer. I'll just say that the fact that reading this passage led you to such a serious list of questions means that it touches something, right? It touches something fundamental. So
I remember that he said, I don't remember if it's in this book or if he just said it one of the years, but he said that in Mincha of Erev Rosh Hashanah, a few hours before the new year begins, you still say, Barech Aleinu Shana Tova. We're still asking for these few hours to be still blessed before we move on to the new year. And this year, I feel like we're getting new perspective. Like it's every minute something could get even worse. I'm actually really concentrating on that part every day. I know it's almost finished this year, but please don't make it worse before it ends.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, he used to talk about Barech Aleinu. Well, I think that first of all, we don't really know. I mean, that's the truth. We don't really know what God considerations are and what is he interested in exactly. But we do know more or less what he wants us to do, and we also know more or less that we didn't really do what we were supposed to do properly. So I guess that our part in that will be to try, and this is not a job for a one-off job or a job just for for Mariv or Rosh Hashanah. It's a job for a longer period, preparation for Rosh Hashanah at least. But our job is to rethink the way that we do what we're supposed to do, and try to convince him that this year we're going to do it seriously, and say it in an authentic way if we can, and try and make a real effort that we actually to stand up to our words. But maybe this can lead to another point I wanted to put on the table, is that he used to talk a lot, I mean every year probably, about the difference between the first day and the second day. So on the second night he used to come and say, okay, so we got another year probably because we're all here. So it's not so stressful now, but now our job is to, right, this is still it's still in a way still the time of pregnancy. So we need our job now is to build and to shape the new piece of time that we got to something good. So our work doesn't finish on making sure that there will be a new year. Our work on the way he framed it, it was the first day and the second day, and it has roots in Kabbalistic ideas of the strong judgment and the soft, the hard judgment and the soft judgment, Din HaKashya and Din HaRafya. So the Din HaRafya of the second day is our efforts to prepare ourselves to use that piece of time we're given in a better way than we used the previous one. Maybe we'll take this to the last piece I wanted to read, which does take it to the work of mankind, because I mean it's based on the fact that Rosh Hashanah, it says V'ayom tchilat ma'asecha, this is the day of the beginning of your creation. But if you do the calculation, you actually find out that the day of Rosh Hashanah is not the day of creation of the world. The Rosh Hashanah is the day of creation of man. So when we say V'ayom tchilat ma'asecha, we actually say this is the day that we were created, and therefore the main judgment is on our shoulders. And I think this does go back to your question, Elliot, because it means that if this is a judgment about mankind, it means that we have something to do with it, right? So let's read the last passage. I thought of anyway doing these classes or these learnings something about 50 minutes. So we have another 10-15 minutes. So read.
Sorry, I just dropped off.
Okay, Elliot, do you wanna brave it and finish the whole thing? I'll share with ask somebody else.
I'm happy to finish it, unless anyone else.
You're such a good participant. Yeah. Okay. Good.
Great. The year as an independent entity. Rosh Hashanah is regarded as a head because the year itself is a body, a complete being with its own existence. The year, like every unit of time, is not just a measure of set duration. It is a being with beginning and end that is distinct and distinguished from all others. If we are to equate two parcels of land of equal measure, we could easily discern that although each one is equal to the other quantitatively, each one differs from the other in nature and character. Every centimetre of the world is unique, and it is impossible to find even a speck of dust that is exactly equal to another. The same is true of units of time. To be sure, time can be measured in external units, and there would appear to be no difference between its various parts, between 1 minute and the next, between 1 hour and the one that follows. But the truth is that each unit of time is distinct. Every single moment is new and different. Such an outlook engenders a serious attitude toward accounting for time and toward the utilization or waste of time. Since every minute is unique, if it is wasted, that minute is no longer rectifiable. The time of rectification is already a different time. Two successive moments may perhaps be similar, but they will never be identical, and they may even be totally dissimilar. If a mitzvah is performed at a certain moment, that moment is adorned. In contrast, a moment in which an avera is committed is defiled. The same applies to the larger units of time, years. The consecutive numeration of the years is not an insignificant successive numbering. The number assigned to a particular year is like a library serial number, which signifies a book's type and subject. Each year has its own character, uniqueness, and array. The new year is analogous to a newborn child who can be like his older sibling, or significantly worse, or incomparably better. A new year can be...
Yeah. Okay, sorry. Here you go. Go on.
A new year can be an ordinary year, and it can also be a year that will bear a special increase in blessing and life. Life for the year. The Rosh of the Shana, because it is the head of the unique body, contains within it, in a single thought, all the days of the year. For this reason, good spiritual work on Rosh Hashanah forms a better inner picture of the year's shape and character. This does not mean, however, that on Rosh Hashanah one should make plans for the whole year. That would be impossible, for an entire year is multidimensional and is connected to many different worlds. What one should do on this day is to form a general picture of what ought to be the character and direction of this year. One should place on the head of the year a crown of kingship, and thereby transform the year into a completely different form of being. This spiritual work must be done not only in honor of the day, but also because of the influence that the head of the year exerts on the entire body of the year. On Rosh Hashanah, a person has it within his power to impart life force to the whole year. In general, dead things belong to the not good aspect of the world. In fact, all forms of impurity take effect upon death, and it makes no difference whether it is a great death or a small death. The opposite of impurity is life, hence the expression, the living God. Thus we read, "See, I have set before you today life and good, death and evil." The conclusion of the passage is not choose good, but rather choose life. Choosing life is of primary importance, because life, by its very nature, presents an advantage. A living thing is better, even when the life is not on the side of holiness. On Rosh Hashanah, we are to build a new year. We are to instill in the year life and goodness, and thereby fashion a new and different year. If one merits it, he can revitalize many others. At the very least, he can revitalize himself and cause the whole body to follow him, to follow the head.
Thank you, Elliot. Yeah, so he's saying, I mean, in general, maybe, what's the work on Rosh Hashanah? Like, what's our job on Rosh Hashanah, right? I mean, here he frames it around a kind of another or a bit rather different analogy of the year to a body, right? There is a head in the body, and the head goes by the body goes by the follows the head. So if the head is good, and the body also goes. Okay, so I mean, I think I more or less said what I wanted to say, but it would be really nice if people want to say anything in whatever language they want. אפשר גם בעברית.
Can you put the...
Elliot, sorry, what?
Oh, I was just going to say, could you put the piece on the screen again?
Yeah, sure. That's fine. I was about to reveal to you, Elliot, a secret that you're probably the only one who is connected from abroad, and you're also probably the only one here whose native language is English. I can't see all the participants, but this is my.
למה אתה אומר, אלישע גם היה.
נכון, I didn't see Elisha, I just saw his name, so I didn't get his face. Right, is he still here? Elisha, are you here?
הוא הרגע ירד.
Okay. Yeah. Do you want to? Which part of the?
Just a bit at the beginning of the third section. There was something I was thinking and I've forgotten.
Yeah.
Yeah, there we go.
Can you see what you were looking for, or should I roll down?
Yeah, no, I just really liked the image of the year being its own body, because it makes sense that like the body can go out of control, and things can happen to the body which no one really, or the head certainly didn't preempt. So like there is, on the one hand, as you said, there's a kivun on the second day of Rosh Hashanah you can put your mind to, and you can hope to direct the body in a certain way for the entire year. At the same time, if the year is a complete body and a unique one, it can kind of have a mind of its own potentially. And maybe that's something that we can see for this year, 2020, or, the past Jewish year. It's like, no one really could have predicted this, as much as our kivunim were in the right direction. Maybe it wasn't. Maybe we all had an off campus. But then there's another question, which is my year and my kivun, my derech is kind of one, right? My shana is its own guf, it seems. But is my shana a separate guf to yours? And yet, at the same time, we met in person in January, so our shanim collide, and does that mean that my head, when it's directing my year, can also end up indirectly directing yours? And if my year's body goes totally off course and goes crazy and wild this year, well, so is yours, and so is everyone's in the world. So was that my asham or my avera? Or was it all of ours, and therefore do we have collective? And we do, certainly, Jews, Koller, even Zem is there, we all have responsibility. But then it seems that it's not just Jews, obviously, we're all impacting each other. So again, lots of different bigger level questions.
The image is very simple. Of course, when you actually think about it, like you were just showing, when you actually think about it, and about the billions of people in the world, and each one has, and we're all kind of partially intermingled with each other, and we also have our own. Yeah, so the entire system is very complex, right? I was thinking, what did we do so wrong in our previous Rosh Hashanah that we received such a year? And I don't know. Maybe this is one of the reasons that it says that on Rosh Hashanah people should pray the Rov Am. They should pray in big numbers, in big minyanim.
I didn't know. At least when
we're trying to, when we're trying to direct our thoughts, we're doing it together with other people. So we're not entirely individuals. We're also individuals, but not only.
Israel, you think the Rav says that the idea that a year is a being is a Jewish idea, or is that true for every unit of time? Like, do you think other nations perceive time as, because I'm just thinking about it, because the way that we count the days, that we count from a certain day, we don't just have names, we count, like the names are a count towards Shabbos. So do you think it's a different perception of time between different people, or the Rav is saying something that's general for everybody? Because I think everybody agrees that every minute is unique, but the question is, when you look at a year, what's the perception of that unit?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think that in one of the essays in the book, he does refer to some sort of difference between Jews and the other nations. Maybe even one of the passages that we read, no? If I remember correctly, he did make a distinction between the general perception of time and our festivals in general, and the perception of Rosh Hashanah. But I'm not sure I remember correctly. I don't know. Maybe someone else here. Maybe Moshe knows. Moshe. מה אתה אומר? We can't hear you.
I'm trying to remember if he does a distinction between them. It's a good question.
I don't know. Well, the fact that all of us don't remember may show that it wasn't, even if there wasn't this distinction, it wasn't so important. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'll have a look later and see if I can find this passage and let you know. Okay, I was asked.
We have to really concentrate when we do all the Miba Magifa, Miba Esh. We know that we didn't do it properly last year.
But we don't know if we did it too short or too long. It's difficult to know what was the problem.
Also, this year, I mean, I don't know what the rules currently are in Israel, but in England, you're not allowed to be outside with in a group of more than 6 people, and you're not, and there are restrictions on how many people you can have inside. So all these outside minyanim are no longer minyanim because you can't get to a minyan. So
what's gonna happen?
You said it's good. You said it's good to daven rov am. I mean, you can't even get to a minyan at this point. What's going to happen? I think they're still going to allow like Batei Knesset to remain open inside, but you have to have booked a slot. And because lots of people didn't want to book, especially as, I don't know if you heard, but the shuls were making the services only 2 hours long. So you only had a 2-hour slot for the entirety of Rosh Hashanah. The entirety of Yom Kippur, I think, is only going to be 2-hour slots, so that they can fit in as many people. So a lot of people thought, oh, we'll do garden minyanim. But now you can't make a minyan in the garden. So it's all very confusing. I'm sure lots of illegality will happen. Yeah.
No, so here it's already much more lenient. I don't think it's justified. But it's yeah. You're gonna have
we have to matir the asurim, this Rosh Hashanah.
Yeah. Okay, I was asked to to create maybe a WhatsApp group so we can have I can have a way to share some of the materials that we read. So what we'll do is whoever is interested in me putting him inside this WhatsApp group that we'll create, please just put in the chat here, or send only privately, either to everyone or just privately to me, his phone number or his name, because, well, I actually have all of your phone numbers, I think, so you can just put your name. Okay, thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed it. I enjoyed it.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
B'ezrat Hashem, we'll meet next week. Good night.
Mazal tov.
Bye, Elliot.